Deep inside an Egyptian temple, a carved object seems to glow with impossible intent. A bulb-like form, a coiled shape, and a figure reaching toward it. For some, it looks less like myth than memory. So what exactly are we seeing? The scene comes from Dendera, a temple complex on the Nile where stone corridors still hold the weight of ritual, astronomy, and royal power. In that setting, every image mattered, because temples were not just buildings, they were statements about the cosmos. The relief that sparked the modern claim sits in a chamber associated with sacred imagery and celestial language. It is the kind of place where symbolism was expected, yet this carving has kept drawing people back for a very different reason. At first glance, the image appears to show a rounded glass-like form, a stem and a serpent stretching through it. That resemblance is what made the relief famous far beyond Egypt, especially among those searching for traces of lost technology. The claim is simple and startling. This is not just religious symbolism, but a depiction of an electrical device. If true, it would suggest that ancient artisans preserved knowledge far stranger than standard history allows. To understand why the idea took hold, you have to step back into the temple world of ancient Egypt, where images could encode creation myths, divine births, and the path of the sun. The language was symbolic, but it was also precise. Dendera was dedicated to Hathor, a goddess tied to joy, fertility, the sky, and sacred power. In a place like this, the boundary between religion and cosmic description was never simple, which is part of the relief's enduring pull. The famous carving belongs to a broader set of temple scenes that include serpents, boats, and enclosed forms often interpreted through myth. Yet the unusual geometry of this panel makes it linger in the mind long after the rest fades away. Supporters of the electrical theory point to the shape itself. A bulb-like enclosure, a coiled line inside, and a support that resembles a cable or stand. In photographs, the resemblance can feel uncanny, almost modern. That impression becomes stronger when the carving is viewed beside other temple imagery that seems to show a source of power or illumination. The question is not whether the image is strange, it clearly is, but what kind of strangeness it carries. A second detail keeps the mystery alive. The serpent appears to emerge from within the form, as if moving through a sealed vessel. For believers, that reads like a filament, a current, or a living force inside a device. Then there is the setting around it, because this was not a random wall. The scene sits among ritual imagery in a temple built by skilled craftsmen who understood proportion, repetition, and visual storytelling at a remarkable level. The third detail is the persistence of the claim itself. For decades, writers, researchers, and curious visitors have returned to this carving because it refuses to behave like a simple, settled symbol. That persistence matters, because mysteries survive when they keep producing new questions. If the image is only myth, why does it continue to look so mechanically suggestive to modern eyes? The strongest version of the claim links the carving to the idea of ancient electricity, sometimes paired with theories about batteries, lamps, or hidden technical knowledge. In that reading, the relief becomes a visual clue rather than a fantasy. Part of the appeal is practical. Temple chambers were dark, and some have argued that soot-free surfaces suggest lighting methods unlike open flame. Whether or not that argument holds, it points to a real problem ancient builders had to solve. That is where the story widens beyond a single carving. Across the ancient world, people built monuments that seem to preserve knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and sacred geometry with a confidence that still feels difficult to match. Skeptics question whether the resemblance is being read backward from modern technology into an ancient symbol. They point out that Egyptian art often compresses ideas into forms that are visually strange to us, but entirely coherent within its own language. That explanation has weight, especially because temple imagery routinely blends gods, vessels, plants, and animals in ways that are meant to be read mythically. Still, the Dendera panel remains unusually hard to dismiss at a glance. A fourth detail is the visual balance of the composition. The enclosed form, the support beneath it, and the orderly surrounding figures create a scene that feels deliberate and engineered. Whether symbolic or technical, it was designed to be noticed. That deliberate design is exactly why the relief has become a touchstone for lost knowledge theories. It invites a question that never quite goes away. Did the artist simply imagine a sacred object or preserve something they had seen? The conventional reading usually places the image within a creation myth, where the serpent and enclosed form represent birth, emergence, or the journey of divine energy. In that framework, the panel is not a machine, but a theology made visible. That interpretation fits the broader temple tradition, and it deserves to be taken seriously. Yet even when the mythic reading is accepted, the relief still carries an almost electrical charge in the imagination. What keeps the debate alive is not just the image, but the feeling that ancient people may have known more than they wrote down in plain language. In many old cultures, knowledge was guarded, encoded, and passed through symbols. If that is true here, then the Dendera relief might be a fragment of a larger technical memory now lost. Not proof of a power grid, perhaps, but a hint that the ancient world was more inventive than we often assume. The unanswered questions are stubborn. Why does the image resemble a modern tube so closely? Why do so many people, independently, see a device before they see a myth? And if the relief is symbolic, why choose a form that continues to provoke technical interpretations centuries later? The answer may lie in the power of ancient art to compress multiple meanings into one unforgettable shape. Some researchers also note that the temple's imagery works best when seen as part of a sequence, not a single isolated panel. In other words, the carving may be speaking a language we no longer read fluently. That is where the mystery becomes larger than one theory. Whether the panel records myth, ritual, or something stranger, it reminds us how much of the ancient world survives as interpretation rather than certainty. The Dendera light claim endures because it sits at the edge of what can be confidently explained. The carving is real, the symbolism is real, and the leap from symbol to technology remains the point where imagination and history meet. Maybe that is why the image still matters. It does not force one answer. It holds two possibilities in tension, and both feel strangely alive when you stand before the stone. The conventional explanation can account for the temple context, the religious symbolism, and the artistic style. Yet it does not entirely erase the sensation that the carving is pointing beyond itself, toward something half-remembered.